Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and Restless official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Chance asked Sharon where she'd gone. She replied that she must have dozed off. She said he looked very dashing. She asked if he'd changed his clothes. Chance said he'd been in that suit all day, but Sharon claimed he'd worn a sweater and cords. Summer entered. She and Chance embraced. Chance told Summer she looked amazing. Summer and Chance had their arms around each other when Summer asked if Sharon was ready to go. Confused, Sharon asked where they were going. Chance said they were going to celebrate the deal she'd finalized between Kirsten Incorporated and Chancellor Winters. Sharon, Summer, and Chance were suddenly transported to the entrance of the athletic club, where Billy greeted them. Billy said it would be a fantastic night because Kirsten's technology combined with Chancellor Winters' content was sure to be a success, thanks to Sharon's suggestion that they join forces. Summer asked if Nick was there, because they couldn't start the celebration without him, since he was the other half of it. Sharon asked if she was dreaming, but Chance said it was definitely Sharon's reality. At the bar, Billy gave Sharon a glass of champagne. She heard Summer tell Chance that leaving the police force had been the best thing he could possibly have done for himself. Chance said it was thanks to Sharon, who'd encouraged him when he'd been wrestling with the idea. Billy toasted Sharon for being an incredibly brilliant influence on everyone. After Summer had stepped away, and Billy left to schmooze, Sharon told Chance that nothing made sense. She asked if Chance was dating Summer, and when they had parted ways. Chance told her they hadn't been together for a while because she'd said she wasn't ready to fall in love. Chance admitted it had taken him some time to get over her, but she'd made the right call because he realized there was only one person who was right for Sharon. Sharon turned and watched as Nick walked past her. She followed him. Suddenly, she was in the jazz lounge, and she was about to approach Nick, who was at the bar, but Phyllis came up behind him and asked Nick to buy her a drink. Nick said he was waiting for someone. Phyllis asked if it was Sharon. She claimed that wouldn't work again. She said no matter how many times Nick had been sucked into Sharon's orbit, he would never love Sharon the way she loved him. She said it would never last. Sharon turned. She was suddenly in the athletic club dining room. She saw Mariah and Tessa at a table. Sharon sat down with them. Mariah asked if Sharon was confused. Sharon guessed she was in a dream because she didn't know what was going on. Mariah told her to take control. Sharon told Mariah she'd finally found her niche, but Tessa claimed Sharon's heart was still empty. Tessa began singing, and she sang and danced out of the room. Mariah claimed that what Tessa had said had bothered Sharon. Sharon said she knew Tessa hadn't meant to upset her. Sharon claimed her heart wasn't empty because she was happy, but she wasn't ready to fall in love again because of everything she'd been through. Sharon told Mariah that Nick had brought her a lot of joy, but he'd also caused her a lot of pain. She'd lost Ray, and she claimed that she and Chance were at different stages of their journey. Sharon said she knew what it was like to be deeply in love. She said Chance had been married to his career for so long that he had yet to experience that. Mariah stated that even with Abby, his job had come first. Sharon claimed Chance would need to find that connection, and for that reason, she'd had to let him go. Sharon told Mariah that Chance had always made her feel special, and he'd been fun to be with. Mariah asked if Chance had been a distraction for her. Adam, dancing with Tessa, claimed they'd all been distractions for Sharon. He said there was only one life and love that was Sharon's destiny, and they all knew who that was. Sharon stated she was sick of hearing people tell her that Nick was the one. She asked why everyone thought that. Sharon asked if no one remembered the times Nick had cheated on her and broken her heart. Adam said it seemed to have mended itself very well, considering how many times she'd gone back to Nick. Sharon said she'd loved Nick with everything in her, but it hadn't been enough. She claimed Nick hadn't been her only love. She said she'd felt passionately about Ray, and they'd had an amazing life. Adam agreed it had been solid and emotionally safe, but he asked if it had really been passionate, wild, and unbridled. Adam claimed there had been more of a spark between him and Sharon, and he hadn't been the love of Sharon's life. Adam claimed he'd only been Sharon's dark temptation, and Phyllis had been the dark temptation for Nick. He said it wasn't love, but something different with no staying power. Sharon stood up and said she was there to celebrate a new and successful business, and that was what she was focused on. At the bar, Billy and Chance raised a glass to her. Chance said Sharon had taken a struggling business founded by a monster and she'd turned it into a vehicle for good. He said it was launch day, a joint venture with Chancellor Winters, represented by him and Billy. Billy claimed the sky was the limit, thanks to Sharon Newman. Everyone applauded. Nick entered with Phyllis on his arm. Adam said it was Sharon's dream, she could either follow Nick, or she could lead. Suddenly, Sharon was standing at the bar with Chance and Billy. She told them there was no such thing as a solo triumph, and success was always a joint effort born of collaboration. She picked up her glass and said the celebration was for all of them. As they drank, Sharon watched Nick and Phyllis walk out. She saw Summer and Chance dancing while Tessa sang. Adam told Sharon it was her chance to make a quick getaway. Billy asked her to go with him. Sharon and Billy were transported to the coffee house. Billy said he had always admired Sharon because she'd accomplished anything she'd ever set her mind to. He said since she and her mother had been left to fend for themselves, Sharon had had her fair share of trials, a boyfriend who'd left her when she'd been pregnant, losing Cassie and Mariah without knowing she'd had twins, Cassie's death, Adam's head games, her bipolar disorder, cancer, Ray dying far too young, Cameron Kirsten and that nightmare, and all the heartache Nick had put her through, but that had been mostly Phyllis's fault. He said Phyllis was Nick's Achilles heel, and he couldn't say no to her. Sharon claimed Phyllis had known that. Sharon told Billy that Phyllis used her sexuality as a weapon to get what she wanted, and it didn't matter who got hurt. She said when she and Nick had been mourning Cassie, Phyllis had pursued Nick, even though they'd needed to be together to heal as a family from such a tremendous loss. She said after Noah's birth, Nick had found an oasis in Phyllis, where he could feel like himself again. She said she'd never forgiven Nick and Phyllis for leaving her alone at a time like that. Billy told Sharon not to think they didn't know how much that had cost Sharon and Noah, and especially Nick. He said the reason Nick and Phyllis never worked was because of the guilt Nick carried. Billy said Nick and Phyllis had had fun, but when it had become work, it had been done. Sharon said she didn't want to discuss Phyllis anymore. Billy snapped his fingers, and Nick and Phyllis walked in laughing. Billy asked Phyllis to pass him the deck of cards in her right hand. He asked if she wanted to join him on the patio for a hand. She agreed. After Billy and Phyllis left for the patio, Nick chose a tune on the jukebox, and he asked Sharon to dance with him. Sharon asked if Nick remembered the last time that they'd tried to make a go of it. Nick said he did. He said they'd been at the altar, ready to say, "I do." Sharon said she'd made sure everyone at that church had known exactly why the wedding hadn't happened.